Even in the beginning, I would come home from tour.
From the Grammys.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And I'd sit in my parents' living room, talking a mile a minute. I did this, and then we did this, and this is. And my dad, in his thick Portuguese accent, would look at me and go, when I was done, Nelly, slow down, okay?
That's Nelly Furtado. She's still got a lot to talk about, and she still hasn't slowed down. Nelly's new album is called The Ride, and her interview was definitely a bit of a wild ride, so hold on tight. I'm Tom Power. You're listening to Q.
I think if we were a band that toured 9 months out of the year, I could see how you would grow to hate your bandmates and think like, I don't want to look at you and I don't want to sit near you on the plane.
That's Carl Newman of the New Pornographers on how absence makes the heart fonder and the band stronger. Once a holiday from their solo gigs, the New Pornographers have grown into a career band, and I'll ask them how, after 7 studio albums, they keep that playful spirit alive.
We had a blast on the first one and enjoyed each other's company, and also we're all there in this awesome thing, and then it was over, and we felt that we were just scratching the surface on this world that we had created.
We get a visit from some real goons. The stars of the hockey sequel, Goon, Last of the Enforcers, are going to huddle up here in studio and share their top arena jams. All this plus architect David Adjaye and a special performance by Passenger, all today on Q. She is one of Canada's biggest musical exports ever. And yet, the journey of Nelly Furtado has been unlike any pop star this country has ever seen. From up-and-coming singer, to pop superstar, to Spanish language supremacy, and now to DIY creative control. Makes sense, then, why her new record is called The Ride. For the first time, Nelly is out on her own. Nelly visited Studio Q the other day to talk about the new record, but we decided to do something a little special. We dove way back into her career, and we played her some old jams and some new ones, and wait till you hear her reaction to some of those songs that you know best. The first song I played her was the one that started it all. When I say the words Nelly Furtado, this is probably the first song that comes to mind. I'm talking about I'm Like a Bird.
And though my love is great, though my love is true, I'm like a bird, I only fly away. I don't know where my soul is.
So if you don't know that song, I don't know where you were, but we can talk later about where you might have been when that came out. That was Nelly Furtado's song that really introduced a lot of us to her. Mm-hmm. I'm Like a Bird from Whoa Nelly.
Yeah.
When you hear that song now, what comes to mind?
I tell the story of where I wrote this song a week ago. It's kind of interesting. I was in Los Angeles recording my first album with Track and Field, who are Canadian. And I needed more songs. And I stayed at this apartment building called the Oakwood Suites, where there's a lot of young kind of kids that are starting out in entertainment stay. It's kind of like a long-term apartment, sort of with a kitchen. And, you know, safe to say, I was a little bit lonely. So I just woke up one morning and sat on the little pull-out sofa in the living room and wrote I'm Like a Bird. And I still love singing that song. I still love it.
But does it feel like it's a completely different person who's singing it when you hear it?
Yeah, totally.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, listen to it. It's like so beautiful. It's like so like a naivete, I guess, or something. There's something beautiful there. I mean,
you don't feel that that's there anymore? Like,
I actually know when I sing it, I kind of feel like the same person, I guess. Yeah.
Is it challenging for you to get up and still sing those songs?
No, not at all. I'm the same person. I've rejected a lot of the trappings, I think. Not all of them, but like, that's weird. I come from really humble roots, and like I still, a couple years ago, I decided to kind of like simplify my life as much as possible, as much as I could. And I don't know, I went back to like, I started cleaning my apartment again. I was like, I need to like go back to, I used to be a chambermaid cleaning hotel rooms and writing
before
songs.
Whoa Nelly, right?
Yeah. So I kind of went back there and kind of was like, I want to just spread light again and like be in touch with my surroundings again and be connected to everything I do and everything I say and everything I am.
And what did you learn from doing that? What do you learn from going back? So when you're cleaning your apartment to put you in the mind space of someone, of the Nelly Furtado that was a chambermaid.
Yeah.
What do you learn from
I'm
going back
trying to go
there?
back to like the stuff that matters, I guess.
Well, what matters?
Like knowing yourself. Really. I think that's all that matters, is exploring your dark sides and like conquering your fears. I feel like that's the point of life. And we're only here once in this life, so we have to learn our lessons. We have to go there. We can't run away from who we are. We can't like run away from the lessons we're supposed to learn in this life. And the only way you can not run away is if you look in the mirror.
These things don't just happen when you're 19. Like these revelations you have don't just happen when you're 19. You have to get to a place when you get there. Oh, I want to play another song that you're really well known for.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about how that led to where you are right now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's play it.
Promiscuous girl, whatever you are. Yeah, oh yeah. And it's you that I want. Promiscuous boy, you already know that I'm all yours. What you waiting for?
I feel like I'm on carpool karaoke.
That's Nelly Furtado. I'm James Corden. This is Carpool Karaoke. Or Q, like Quarpool Karaoke.
Carpool karaoke.
Nelly Furtado,
Canadian version.
I don't have to tell you that song was huge. I mean, that record Loose.
And it still jams in the club. I heard it in the club. And I was like, this is the first time I've been in a club and heard this song and actually enjoy it, because
it wasn't weird. It wasn't weird for you.
I'll tell you why. Because I think when you write certain songs or you have that experience of a song totally blowing up, it's like it becomes bigger than you. It's not really your song anymore. It's everybody's.
Right.
And it's like whatever they're like. I was in Montauk in July and I was at a club and a girl was singing and dancing her heart out to this song.
She was singing that song.
To that song.
Did she know you were there?
No, but I watched her the whole time. And then her friend like shook her on the shoulder and pointed to me. And then she was so embarrassed. But then we said hi and said hello and it was cute. But yeah.
But she saw you and she went, oh my God, I didn't know Nelly Furtado was here.
Yeah, and I was watching her the whole time.
Oh my God.
Like a weirdo.
But we're at this point, like we're talking now about like all the things you've learned throughout your career.
Yeah.
What was the best part of that? What was the best part about having that huge that huge pop when that came out?
Well, it was interesting because for me it was conscious. It was a conscious move. I mean, I played Nelly and Folklore. I toured internationally. And I always found that whenever I was playing a festival or a larger gig, a lot of the pastiche-like cut and paste sounds on my first two albums didn't translate as well in larger venues.
Like what?
Stuff like Baby Girl. I mean, it's got like Barambow in it,
Yeah.
you know?
I love that song.
And like skittly weird rhythms.
Yeah.
And they're fine.
Yeah.
But I felt like I didn't have material that had really the fluid and more open sound. And I also craved to push myself in a more pop direction to see if I could be more broad. I envisioned a title, and it was called Loose. And that was 2 years before I even stepped in the studio to make it with Timbaland. I kind of wanted to see if I could make something like that.
I want to play a clip of another song. This is not one of your songs. This is a person that really did help shape who you are with this record.
Oh, what an ordinary day. Take out the garbage, masturbate. I'm still holding
Hard R.
Master.
She said Master, right?
Yeah, it sounds like she's saying Master. If you're just tuning in, that's Andy
Can you loop
Clark.
that?
Yeah, I can do that. That's our new hit. That's Andy Clark, aka
Can that be your new theme song?
Andy Clark, aka St. Vincent, with her song "Birth in Reverse." I'm sitting here talking to Nelly Furtado. What was Andy's?
Like a birth in reverse. Yeah. So
what's
good.
Andy's role in this ride?
Well, I was kind of obsessed with Annie when I found her music, and I loved it so much. And it sounded kind of like nothing I'd heard before, especially like when she came out with the self-titled St. Vincent, and that was after I'd already met her.
What is it when you heard St. Vincent or when you saw St. Vincent that you said, that's a road that I want to go down?
I think it's because the St. Vincent album to me sounded like music was supposed to sound like.
What do you mean?
I don't know. There was something I liked about it. Now I realize there's the humanity in the music because of the way John records. So he records all live session players off the floor. There's no real cutting and pasting. All the vocals are live takes that are beginning to end performances.
There's risk.
There was humanity in the music.
But there's another risk here too.
Yeah.
You're making this record outside of your contract. You're owning your own label. You're releasing it yourself. You're doing it very much on your own terms. Business-wise, for the first time in a very, very long time, Nelly.
Well, yeah.
Was that?
I guess since 2009.
Yeah, that's very freeing.
Yeah.
But it can also be kind of lonely. Did you find?
Yeah, I was managing myself too. I was as lonely as it gets.
Did you feel lonely?
Yeah, hell yeah. I checked into the Belmont Hotel. It was like a former motel in Dallas, Texas, in Oak Cliff. Great place, great staff. Hello. And
they're listening.
Yeah, smoke. Yeah, good food. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like, it was just a whim. I remember getting the invoices from the musicians the next week. Like, okay, I'm gonna pay these. And like, it's kind of like, I don't know, a little. It sounds weird, but I had this voice inside that was like, you need to record a record with John. I like kind of working with people like before. You know what I mean? Like before they start working with people like me. You know, like I kind of like you gotta capture them when they got the sweet stuff, when the ripe juicy fruit.
But that's what you had.
The ripe juicy fruit.
That's what you had when we just talked about it. When we listened to Whoa Nelly, that's what you heard. You heard that person before all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you overcome that loneliness?
I don't know. How
Nelly?
the hell did I get back to that? That's so cool.
How did you do it?
I'm excited about that. How did I do it? I freaking had to go through it. It was hard. It's hard as hell. I cried a lot. And I wrote sad songs about it. I mean, Tap Dancing is a sad clown song. I don't know if you've heard it.
I haven't heard. Listen to the record.
Yeah, it's my sad clown song. When I was a little girl, I had a bed set because we got hand-me-downs because we worked at the Robin Hood Motel. So one time, this long-stay guest left my mother a whole entire bed set for me. So comforter, pillow, a lamp. It was Pierrot the Clown. And I loved Pierrot the Clown. And there was a music box with him, and it played the song The Entertainer. And I always connected to that. And I think the reason why I wrote Tap Dancing is because somebody told me, they saw me in a meeting, and they were like,
it was a label meeting.
It was a label meeting.
Yeah.
And at the time, the funny part is the ride, I was still signed to Interscope when I started recording the ride, but I was doing my usual rogue activity of like, I'm just going to do this and we'll play it for you later, that type of thing. And I was going to come in and play them a song. And someone I work with said, why are you tap dancing? Why are you tap dancing?
Why are you performing? Why are you
performing like in a meeting?
You're Nelly Furtado.
That type of thing. Yeah, like kind of like, well, you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. Like you've already done a lot of cool things. And it never occurred to me that like, yeah, I'm kind of like an adult. Like why am I tap dancing? And I realized I was kind of tap dancing for friends and family. And, you laugh at yourself and you think it's funny, right? But really it's self-deprecating, And I think you need to just love yourself a little more. And as cheesy as maybe I learned to love myself a little more the last 5 years. I mean, because if you don't love yourself, you can't embrace those ugly little details. You really can't.
I want to listen to another track off the record. This one's called Flatline.
Yeah, this one's pretty numb. Flatline.
When that song first started, you said, "Oh yeah, this one's pretty numb."
It is.
What do you mean?
Well, it's two good stories. So I got to Dallas, Texas. I'm like, where am I? What am I doing here? But something tells me I should be here. John's studio is like a converted funeral home. So you get in there and you're like, whoa, I've never worked with anyone like you before. You have like a dark sense of humor, John Congleton. And, but he's so nice. And so I go, okay, I'm totally nervous because he's so cool. I pull out my GarageBand files on my computer. I play him everything I've got. And at that point, I'd done some writing, but not that much. So I played him stuff. He's so unimpressed. He doesn't like any of it. And at the end, thank God, I'm scrambling and I think, oh yeah, that other song, I didn't bring it, but I can sing it. So I sing, I don't feel nothing at all. I don't feel nothing at all. And he goes, I like that.
Oh my God! I think if you sang that in front of me, I'd be like, oh my God, we should talk. We need to talk. We need to get a cup of coffee.
He's like, I like that. It's happy and sad at the same time.
We started this interview by listening to "I'm Like a Bird," and we just listened to something off the new record. Feels like the ride and the journey and all this discovery you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in some ways you trying to get back to who you were when you recorded Whoa Nelly, or even before it. Is that right?
So true. 100%. Totally. Even if I wasn't fully conscious of it, I think the simplicity that I was craving, right? The sort of simplicity, stopping, poetry, moments, feeling joy again, all these things. Like when I started working at my friend's record stores because I felt joyful in the store. And I was like, oh my God, joy, I know this. I detect joy.
And when,
bleep, bleep, bleep.
but when you become Nelly Furtado Inc., Nelly Furtado Business, that joy can go away.
Oh, for sure. Oh my God. Yeah. It was fun. It's a blessing, you know. It was so much bounty and memories and achievements.
And a great life for yourself.
Of course. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's like not to take it for granted at all. It's not that. It's staying happy. We got to all stay happy. We owe it to ourselves to stay happy. Whatever it is makes you happy, you know? We have to be happy. And I think I just really wanted to be happy. And I think being happy is always the most important thing. So we got to feed our souls to be happy. We have to feed our hearts. We have to follow our hearts to be happy, always, no matter if it doesn't make any sense.
Nelly Furtado, I loved listening to that record last night so much. And I love talking to you today so much as well.
Aw, thank you. Thanks, Tom. I mean, I'm glad you like the album. That's amazing.
I do.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
But I like talking to you too. Thanks a lot for coming in.
I like talking to you. You sound great on this show. You're awesome.
God love you. Let's play mandolin together. Still to come on cue, Jay Baruchel, Alicia Cuthbert, and Marc-Andre Grandin squeeze into the studio to talk about Goon, Last of the Enforcers. But first, the new Pornographers are here with their new record, Whiteout Conditions. There are a lot of different types of friends. Sometimes you can go weeks, months, even years without seeing someone, and you just pick up where you left off. That's the kind of dynamic the new Pornographers have. They're one of Canada's all-time greatest supergroups. Their new album, Whiteout Conditions, is their first without co-founder Dan Behar. And what ended up coming out was their most political and personal record to date, with Carl Newman opening up about his own battle with depression and with anxiety. You'll hear from Carl in a moment, but first we have something special for you. Alongside bandmates Catherine Calder and Joe Siders, this is Carl Newman, the new Pornographers, with High Ticket Attractions, live on cue.
You can imagine all the factions that will surround high ticket attractions. High on the spirit, hopped up and mystic. After the flame baptism, you're fearless. You know the science of falling. You have your calling. You know the song, the Magna Carta. It's underwater. We left it there for the sons and the daughters. One day we'll find it and be reminded when we live under sea like we ought to. Didn't know flying from falling. Clueless, the poor thing, sad to report. Didn't know losing from learning. Wheels were turning, you know the song. This thing could go two ways. Won't be another exit for days. So pack a small suitcase. Anything else can be easily replaced. The call to action. They will surround high ticket attractions.
Dan Behar is not in the band anymore. This is a record you made without him. Tell me a little bit about, what is it like working without this guy for the first time? An important member of the band.
Well, I don't know. The weird thing about it is there's always been a weird separation. Like Dan, like when I'm working on my songs, like Dan's not there.
Right.
You know? Like I'm in the room working on dance songs, but so ultimately I've said to people it's very possible if Dan had been on this record, it would be this record plus 3 more songs. So I've said hey, you could take 3 songs from the next Destroyer record and mix them into this album, and you might have the alternate reality
version of Whiteout
version of Whiteout Conditions. It's very similar. The way we made this record is very similar to the way we made Mass Romantic, is that we just sit, there's a lot of John and I sitting in the studio together going okay, what are we going to do here?
Right.
We're just throwing ideas around. And back when we started, we were just doing it in somebody's apartment, And now he'll fly up to Woodstock and, and we'll work in my little home studio. It's just a different, but the surroundings, the circumstances change, but the way we do it when we get down to work, it's just always been very similar.
With no respect for the warning, violence of yearning, defiance of learning, and protected encryption, the voice of addiction, the song, this ain't to go 2 ways, won't be another exit for days, so pack a small suitcase, anything else can be easily replaced.
There's one feeling that you get when you sing Mass Romantic. I can only imagine that standing up with your guitar and singing, as you mentioned, a bit of a departure. Songs about anxiety, songs about depression. It must feel different to sing them in front of people.
I realize it's a good thing when you put something out there and there's somebody who sees that sort of shared experience. At South by, this guy from Power Bottom, band we were playing with, came up to me and said, I've been a fan of yours for years. And he was talking about our video for Sing Me Spanish Techno, how, it's about cross-dressers. And he said, I was 13 years old and I saw, there's people in this video like me. And,
wow.
And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I didn't make that video. All we did was provide the song for it. But just the idea that you could put something out there in the world and that maybe there is some 13-year-old somewhere who feels like a total outsider and they feel a little more included. So that's just an extension of being open about the things that bother you. Because also things, troubles you have in life are given more power when you try and hide them,
Yeah.
So I think if you just talk about them openly, it's not a big deal.
Coming up, we got more music from the new Pornographers, but first I'm joined by Jay Baruchel, Alicia Cuthbert, and Marc-Andre Grandin to talk hockey, music, and hockey music. Back in 2011, a movie, you may have heard of it, called Goon came out. It tells the story of a character named Doug Glatt, likable, kind of dim-witted bouncer who joins his local hockey team, becomes an enforcer, leads them to glory. Well, now Jay is back with the sequel to that movie in his directorial debut. It's called Goon, The Last of the Enforcers, and he dropped by the studio along with stars Alicia Cuthbert and Marc-Andre Grandin to talk about it and to share some of their favorite hockey jams. We asked you to bring in hockey jams.
Attaboy.
And Alicia, you go first. What did you choose?
This is great because I didn't know what to pick, and I just, when I thought of hockey and music, I thought of the Hip. So, but I don't know what song they chose. I basically said anything from their entire.
She gave them 30 years worth of
30
music
years
to
of
choose
hip
from.
music.
They got a couple of records out. Pick something up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I said just have fun with it.
Watch me radio finagle my way out of this
Let's
right
do
now.
this, buddy. How you?
Well, we were thinking that a great song for you to pick would be a little song called Fireworks.
Yeah, I know. I did say that. Yeah.
Hit it, Danielle.
Hit it.
Ah, man, I can't be glib coming out of that.
No.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's the best.
It's amazing.
Man, what does the Hip remind you of when you think about hockey? It just seems like the right band for it, right?
It just seems like the right band, and it's the right sort of Canadian band that represent the country, and hockey so much does that in so many ways. So I think the correlation just works.
Did you see any of the last concert? Did you watch?
I did. I was in the Capitol. I was in Ottawa. It was magic. Yeah.
It was absolutely stunning. That was Fireworks by the Tragically Hip. The Tragically Hip being Alicia Cuthbert's choice, and man, that kind of choked me up just a little bit.
Yeah, just a bit.
Marc-Andre, you're up. For God's sake, get me out of this. What's your song?
I didn't want to be too obvious with something, like
Like
a
me?
warm up.
Like mine?
No, like more like
little on the
a
nose.
Rage Against the Machine kind of a warm up song.
yeah.
Whenever someone's asking me to choose a song, it's hard not to choose Bruce Springsteen. So I chose Dancing in the Dark.
I ain't nothing but tired. Man, I'm just tired and bored with myself. Hey there, baby.
I ain't nothing but tired. I'm getting all emotional this morning. I don't know what's going on, man.
Deep cuts.
I'm getting all emotional.
What happened on the weekend, man?
You know what? I don't want to talk about it. Me and Bruce Springsteen.
You need a weekend from the weekend.
Something like that. Marc-Andre, Bruce Springsteen fan?
Yeah, big one. Has nothing to do with hockey, though.
Okay.
It's one of those songs that makes you want to walk slowly, you know, like strut.
For me, apparently makes me want to cry the whole time.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I didn't intend that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry
I
for
think
that.
it might be me. Jay, I'm actually not feeling too bad. Jay, save us for God's sake.
Yeah, here you go.
You got a hockey jam?
Yeah, I think so. Are you familiar with Jimmy Ray? Are you Jimmy Ray? No, just
Who Wants to Know?
Yeah,
That song?
who no, that is not my pick. No, I picked the opening title song from Goon, Last of the Enforcers. Sorry, it's going to be a bit more taxing on your ears than the past two songs, but yeah, Dog's Blood by Alexis on Fire.
In dog's blood, we will hunt around.
See, that makes me emotional in a whole other way. Jay, why did you choose that song to be one of the theme songs for this film?
I listened to it on repeat when I was writing it with Jesse Shabbat, my writing partner, and Alexis is one of my favorite bands ever, and that song just gets me jacked as hell. And Wade McNeil, the guitarist from Alexis on Fire, actually created a lot of original music for our movie that's in the flick as well. So there's a big connection between that band and this flick, and yeah, Dog's Blood. That's just hard.
Director Jay Baruchel joining me in studio. Thank you so much. When Q continues, the new Pornographers have more music for you. But first, I speak with architect David Adjaye, and Passenger and I play a little music in Studio Q. Every now and then, you hear that a successful musician came out of nowhere. You hear that expression a lot, overnight success. But you know, that's almost never the case. Take Mike Rosenberg. Sure, he hit it big in 2012 with this song.
The light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go.
Let Her Go by English singer-songwriter Mike Rosenberg, better known as Passenger. His 7th record's out now. It's called Young as the Morning, Old as the Sea. Mike stopped by the studio the other day, and it was cool. He was kind enough to get me to play a little bit of banjo with him. So here's Passenger. Here I am riding shotgun, performing Hearts on Fire in Studio Q.
Well, I don't know how and I don't know why. When something's living where you can't see die, you feel like laughing but you start to cry. I don't know how and I don't know why. Well, I don't have many and I don't have much. In fact, I don't have any, but I've got enough. 'Cause I know those eyes and I know that touch. Don't have many and I don't have much. Oh, darling, my heart's on fire. Oh, darling, my heart's on fire. Oh, darling, my heart's on fire. For you. don't know where and I don't know when, but I know we'll be lovers again. I'll see you someday before the end. I don't know where and I don't know when. Oh darling, my heart's on fire. Oh darling, my heart's on fire. Oh darling, my heart's on fire. You know those love songs break your heart, heart. You know those love songs break your heart, heart. You know those love songs break your heart. Oh no. Oh darling, my heart's on fire. 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 Feel all.
Here's something I learned in the interview you're about to hear. It's a way of thinking about the role of architecture and how it affects all of us. He's the man behind the Smithsonian's new National African American Museum of History and Culture. It's the first national museum of its kind, so it's a pretty big deal. And to David, this museum is about more than just the sum of its parts. Its very structure is meant to make people think about the world they live in, not unlike a work of art when you stand in front of it. That isn't just something David believes about his latest project. It's part of what's driven his broader vision as an architect. So where you might look at a building and see, well, a building, obviously David sees something so much more profound, which is why I started our conversation by asking him exactly what he sees when he looks at the buildings around him. I'm wondering, when you look at a basilica, when you look at something like the CN Tower, you know, this gigantic structure, or an office building, what do you see?
I'm seeing the achievements of incredible people at a certain time in society, and how they probably overcame incredible resistance, struggle, to produce things of beauty and inspiration that are timeless and that inspire us and allow us to believe in our civilization and allow us to believe in each other as, you know, a kind of species that is trying to strive for a greater good. You know, it's really that profound for me.
Really?
Yeah, it's really that profound. I'm always reading things not just as objects that I just look at and say, oh, that looks nice, or that doesn't look nice. I'm thinking, okay, what does this mean? How is this placed within its context? What is the reference in this in connection to the history of these things? So I have this crazy mind that's continually kind of making these relationships.
That must be a beautiful way to go through life, to be honest.
Could be or terrifying.
Because you're surrounded by buildings all the time, no matter where you are.
This is the problem. The only time it probably doesn't happen is when I shut my eyes off, and then I'm digesting and processing that information. So I'm hooked to this subject.
It's always moving. Your father was a Ghanaian diplomat. You were born in Tanzania. By the time you were 13, you lived in Uganda, in Kenya, in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Ghana, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, and in Britain.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah, that's more places by 13 than most people travel in their lives. How did going to that many places, living that experience, shape the way you see your work in architecture?
I think that what it did was, thankfully I had, the three boys that grew up together. So we as a kind of group became very fascinated by the environments we kept being dropped in, so we would, being able to see an Islamic country, being able to see a kind of Christian country, or being able to see an African multicultural country, or a West African sort of river city country. All these places were dramatic for us. And so from a very early age, we were very aware that the world was made in different ways, and that cities kind of produce different, what I call effects, like different effects to their geography and to their place. And that became really fascinating. I think that's the beginning of a kind of thinking about structures and civilizations, but I didn't know it was called architecture, actually.
When you were figuring out how to bring this to life, and what an enormous task you were tasked with, I'm curious what questions you were asking yourself.
I mean, when I heard about the competition and I was invited to kind of look at the competition, I was extremely thrilled. One, I couldn't believe it was happening. It didn't seem like it was real. But I was extremely thrilled and sort of excited, because in a way it felt like it was the project of a lifetime. It was the dream project. The daunting bit didn't happen until we were told we won. But I was just, I really didn't even, I had so much adrenaline for the story, I didn't even think of the consequences.
Yeah, what now?
Yeah, so it was like, oh my God, here it is. What do we do? This is going to be that moment to express this notion of a narrative in construction. I said, we're gonna make a building that is not just, about the best structure and the best skin and all that sort of performative stuff, but it's actually going to kind of mean something. And we wanted to have a series of references that kind of look to a wider history that kind of frames the African American experience and allows it to be allows you, the visitor, to see through that into the content of the building.
You talked about the physical structure of this museum being an emotive part of its history.
Yeah.
It's meant to honor and house, but I know it might be hard to express, and the challenging thing about talking to you is that this is a radio show. And
no visuals.
And we're speaking about a visual medium. Now, mind you, we are being filmed for television, but it's hard if you're listening to this on the radio. Can you give us an example? And I know it may be challenging. When you look at this building, I'm sure as people are hearing this, they're Googling the building, they're seeing the outside of the building, how people might see its history and its honor manifested in the design that they see.
Well, I think that when you look at this building, from the very sort of silhouette, you should be questioning, what is this? Because I think you notice very quickly that it's not an arbitrary form. It's a very, very classical, symmetrical form, and it has a certain kind of aura. And certain kind of dignity, I think. And I think that should trigger questions. And I think once you go into it, you'll, I mean, I don't know if you'll find it, but you should find it. I think now you probably can find it very easily. The idea is that I wanted you to question the notion of what forms kind of add to the landscape of our histories and our sites. And, in this one, I wanted to look at specifically West Africa and Central Africa, the sort of history of that, and to kind of remind people that African Americans, the roots of African Americans are in Central and West Africa, which is predominantly the forest region. And in the forest region, some of the greatest empires pre-colonization were this group called the Yoruba, who were probably the most gifted craftsmen that we know, before the Greeks sort of came into their own. And I thought that, anybody from that civilization at that time would know what those motifs meant. So there's a little bit of a game here, because the profile of the building really refers to those profiles. And it's probably the highest dignity, the most dignified thing you could give a story is that motif. So I felt that was something that I wanted to evoke as a way to talk about the achievements of the people of the forest region.
Of your creative abilities, or maybe not even of your creative abilities, but of everything that you've kind of collected to make the work that you make, what is the ability that you have that you cherish the most?
Oh, wow. That's a stumper. I think that the one thing that I have a very critical eye. Probably I have a very discerning eye.
Does that work in a bad way sometimes?
Yes, it can work against me. Yeah. But it's I think I'm able to analyze a lot very fast. So I can peel things away very quickly.
Thank you very much. I know that's not an easy question to answer. David Adjaye, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you.
We've got another song from the new Pornographers from their record Whiteout Conditions for you when Q returns. We're going to leave you today with another jam from the new Pornographers. Remember, though, for more performances, uncut interviews, and full episodes of QTV at your leisure, pay us a visit at cbc.ca/Q. My name is Tom Power. Later on.
Flying the ceiling, I'm barely dealing in the faintest of praises are too revealing, such a waste of a beautiful day. Someone should say it's such a waste of the only impossible logical way. And flying in LA was open, I wasn't hoping for a win, I was hoping for freedom. You couldn't beat him, so you crumbled, you doubled your dosage. Wanna go set the inhibitor blocking the passage. The thing is massive and the sky will come for you once. Sit tight till it's done. The sky will come for you once. Just sit tight until it's done. Got so hooked on the feeling, I started dealing in a stage of grief so demanding. I gotta stand in every radio buzzing. It wasn't a dream of the moment, wasn't the current that carried me, keeping me going. Only want to get to work, but every morning I'm too sick to drive. Suffering whiteout conditions, forget the mission, just get out alive. Only want to glean the purpose, only to scratch the surface, raise the plow. Suffering whiteout conditions, forget your mission, just get out somehow. Everyone's suddenly busy, suddenly dizzy, oh so easy, it's pushing you over. You're taking tours of a treacherous strip of the Badlands. You have your demands, maybe you riot for nothing, it's just a bad hand. Only want to get to work, but every morning I'm too sick to drive. Suffering whiteout conditions, forget the mission, just get out alive. Only want to glean the purpose, only to scratch the surface, raise the plow. Suffering whiteout conditions, forget your mission, just get out somehow. Flying the ceiling, I see myself in a revival. It suddenly hits me, it's going viral. Such a waste of a beautiful day. Someone should say it's such a waste of the only impossible logical way. And got so hooked on the feeling, I started dealing, but the days spent kicking the cages are too revealing. So committed to your misfortune, still a cheater. Such a waste of a beautiful day. Wish you could be here.